Yo, what's up, my fellow virgin boy? Everyone likes sauce can never take a motherfucker loss. Oh my here. Long story. Let's not even talk about that shit right now. But today we have to react to the fight business as always. You feel what I'm saying? Every time he upload that shit, make a nigga day. But today we have to react to Alex Pereira run needs to be studied. So he made a video. So you about to see, you know, Giamma.
It's doomsday.
Does it again.
Power. Knockout.
It answered the bat signal. Need somebody to definitely save 303. Answers the call.
These are the spirits people talking about. It's love. It's only love.
Yeah.
Do you know how long it takes for a fighter to become UFC champion? I think a couple of years at the very minimum, and a definite lifetime of commitment, struggle, and agony. Take Charles Oliveira as an example, and he is one of the more esteemed fighters currently active. Dude Bronx made his debut in 2010, and he became champion in 2021. It took him 11 years to reach the pinnacle, and he is one of the few who did. 99% of MMA fighters don't even come close to UFC gold. It's an incredibly hard feat, and the fact that Alex Pereira exists in the modern UFC landscape just boggles my mind.
The three of us were inside Madison Square Garden, November 6, 2021. We were getting ready to call UFC 268, and you were waxing poetic about Alex Pereira. Here we are 32 months later, and he's one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time.
What this guy has done in his incredibly short UFC career needs to be studied. On broadcast, they often tell you this. Alex Pereira is the fastest this and that, but I'm here today with numbers. Numbers that put into perspective just how insane Poatan is.
Fighting Business is one of my favorite new channels going right now.
Thank you to the Fighting Business. Absolutely amazing.
There are 12 UFC champions on the roster, each one representing the absolute peak of their respective divisions. Once they capture that gold belt, their life and career changes, but do you know how long they had to grind to get there? From women's strawweight and all the way up to heavyweight, the average time for the current champions to capture the title, excluding Pereira, is about 5.3 years. Raquel Pennington is the most unfortunate one here. It took her 10 years to become champion, but she's not alone. Leon Edwards also took over 8 years to capture gold, while Islam and Grasso respectively took over 7 years. So, for every champion combined, the average is 5 years, and I think this number is pretty consistent and relevant, not just for the current champions, but those of the past as well.
The best moment of my entire
But you gotta like see Pereira like come up. Like when he came in UFC, everybody knew him for being Izzy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he had a different. It was different times. You feel what I'm saying? Nowadays, it's different times. You know, but. Let me just get into this. I ain't gonna say too much. I ain't a fucking analyst, but I can definitely say I know what I'm talking about. But I don't think I know what I'm talking about. I ain't no chava.
career so far, and I look forward to defend my title again.
So, each champion has to dedicate, on average, half a decade of relentless struggle to get to that spot. On the other hand, it took Alex Pereira 1 year and 6 days to become champion.
Here's the crazy thing. The guy's only been doing MMA for
He's an amateur.
5 years?
Yes, right.
He's got 13 fights now.
Yeah.
The former kickboxing champion made his UFC debut on November 6th of 2021 at Madison Square Garden. November 12th of 2022, Alex Pereira was crowned the middleweight champion in the exact same arena. Think that's crazy? Here's something even more insane. Add 1 more year. Same arena, but a different title on the line.
After that year from the injury, that was the way to improve myself.
November 11, 2023, and Poatan was crowned the light heavyweight champion, becoming the 9th fighter in the organization to capture the belt in 2 different divisions. His record at that time, 9-2.
Normally when you have like 11 fights, you're on the prelims.
Yeah.
Like,
If you're even in the UFC.
if you're even in the UFC.
In comparison, the average record of other double champions in modern UFC at the time of their coronation is 20 wins and 2 losses. That record converts to about 10 years of absolute brilliance in the UFC. But for Poatan, 736 days and a record that befits an MMA rookie. This is where the number class ends, and we dive deep into the strength of schedule. The first 2 opponents for Alex in the UFC were perfect to gauge him as a debutant, Andres Michailidis and Bruno Silva. The former was murdered with a knee to the face, and Bruno Silva, a Terminator at 185, was beaten up for all 3 rounds and was never the same again. After sufficiently proving himself as a capable mixed martial artist, the championship hunt began. Sean Strickland, future middleweight champion by the way, was the first contender Pereira faced at middleweight on the same card as Israel Adesanya. Considering the momentum and credibility Strickland has today, a victory over him is impressive, especially considering it was a first-round knockout. No one does that to Strickland, but Poatan did, and it took just one left hook.
Well, that sucked. You never want to be someone's highlight, but that's a game we play. You know, I tried to stand and bang with one of the best kickboxers. The shitty part about it was, you know, during the round I kept thinking, man, this is going to be an easy fight. I see everything this guy's throwing. I'm getting the better of the exchanges. I'm going to beat this guy up for 3 rounds. And then halfway through, I got caught. So
in the fall of the same year, that left hook landed on then champion Israel Adesanya when he was minutes away from retaining his title. As I said, 1 year and 6 days, and Alex Pereira became UFC champion.
Well, I'll give him one thing. He knows how to recover. And it's kind of like the same story as the last kickboxing fight we had. You know, I'm up, I'm having him, I'm staying focused, and then he just catches me.
But his reign as middleweight kingpin did not last long. That weight cut to 185 was horrendous, and now that he had lost the title back to Israel, Pereira only waited a few months and was then back in the octagon, this time at 205 and against a former champion in Jan Blachowicz. This was such a quick turnaround after a bad knockout, so Alex fought a little shy, but he did enough to win a close split decision. His first fight at 205 was against a former champion, and if you're keeping count, that's 3 so far.
I think I did a good job, but I have much more to show at 205.
Barely 2 years in his UFC career and 3 world champions on his resume already. Fast forward to UFC 295 and another main.
You're probably thinking to yourself, why the fuck is this nigga just like watching the video? Because I'm just trying to watch. There's nothing to really talk about. We're doing our homework right now. We want to know why and how did Alex Pereira become a double champ in a year?
Main event at Madison Square Garden for the relative UFC rookie, and across from him was yet another former champion, someone who did not lose the belt in competition, Jiří Procházka.
So I'm happy that he's my opponent. His style gave me the keys to improve my style.
The stare down between these two was intense, and so was the fight for as long as it lasted. In the second round, Pereira became the first person to beat Jiří in the UFC, and in doing so, he captured the vacant light heavyweight title. 4 world title across 2 combat sports, and I don't know how many world champion kickboxers he ruined, but with the defeat of Jiří, that number in the UFC jumped to 4. This is the point where most start to take it easy and slow down. You've basically done all you can do because in today's UFC, becoming double champion and headlining MSG is the highest you can get, but not for this dude. UFC 300 was a dumpster fire with no appropriate main events. McGregor, Jones, and Adesanya, the 3 biggest stars, were injured and unable to compete. Alex Pereira was injured as well, but he had no problem competing and putting his newly won title on the line against Jamal Hill, yet another guy who never lost a title in competition.
I've seen that he's not on my level. I've seen he's not on my level.
Yo, stop playing these clips for Jamal, bro. I ain't gonna lie. He making himself look bad and sound bad, bro.
It's not close, and I can't wait to get in there tomorrow and show that.
Alex Pereira was the last guy to enter the octagon that night, and when he made his walk to finish off UFC 300, it felt right. You might have been expecting a John Jones or even a Brock Lesnar, but that night, the MMA world revolved around Alex, and it was okay. The greatest combat sports athlete on the planet deserved this honor. UFC 300 was the event where Pereira became a superstar. His brutal victory over Hill was effortless, and it was another beautiful example of trash talk gone wrong.
The referee, he gets kicked low. He puts his hand up, tells the ref, no, stop, I'm good. 20 seconds later, the fight is over.
Hill was the 5th championship victim, and he was so badly scarred by Poatan that he is still at it today.
He literally just said that the kick didn't hit him.
With Hill defeated effortlessly and Jan nowhere close to getting a rematch, the 2 options for Alex were Magomed Ankalaev and a possible rematch with Jiří. Jiří was one of the few who actually presented a challenge for Pereira on the feet, and maybe the rematch was destined to happen because UFC 303, the return of Conor McGregor, was flipped upside down, turned inside out, and in the end, Alex and Jiří answered the call for a late notice title fight and saved the card yet again.
Saw how he doubted what was to come. But the fact that as the world champion, he said, you know what, they called me, let's go do it, and he did it.
As I said, Jiří troubled the kickboxing legend with his unorthodox style and movement when they first fought at 295, but in the main event of UFC 303, Jiří just could not get going. Whenever he tried to do something, Alex made him pay, and in the very last second of the first round, a left hook knocked him down, and the fight could have been over. saved by the bell, but not for long as Alex laid waste to his biggest challenger at UFC 205 with a kick to the head and stamped the second defense of his light heavyweight crown just months after the first one.
Like, the guy's a legend, man. He's like nothing we've ever seen inside the octagon. A lot of guys have power, right? But he's got power with superior
fight
technique,
IQ, everything.
fight IQ off the charts, and just the mindset.
All of this success, notoriety, and respect just took him 2 years, 7 months, and 23 days.
I like to see him go to heavyweight. I know I've never said this before, but I want to see a guy become a 3-division world champion, or at least give it a shot.
As demonstrated by the number and the amount of unconscious former world champions, Alex Pereira's journey in the UFC is nothing short of surreal. From his rapid rise to the ranks to becoming a 2-division champion, Pereira has basically conquered the MMA world on a speed run, and such a feat will likely never ever be replicated. At this point, Pereira's journey isn't just about winning titles, it's about challenging the norms and setting new standards in the sport. Let me say this now, I won't be surprised if I revisit his journey and cover him on this channel again as the first and only triple champion in UFC history.
One thing we learned in this whole video is that just keep going, my nigga. Just keep going.